After cleansing the heart, it's a very important beginning, comes the whole experience of material existence in its full force becomes extinguished. It extinguishes the fire of conditional life and repeated birth and death. The painting is showing one of two pastimes during Krishna's activities in Vrindavan. There was a forest fire. One happened after the Kaliya serpent was killed. Not killed, was subdued. And it was really late at night, and so the cowherd boys slept by the side of the river Jamuna. And at night, there was a big fire. And the cows were at risk, and the cowherd boys appealed to Krishna, please protect the cows. So he told them, close your eyes. And he inhaled the big forest fire. He said, close your eyes, because if they saw him swallow the forest fire, they'd be afraid of his safety. So we had them close their eyes. Now, the blazing fire of material existence, repeated birth and death, that's liberation. Though a common word in Sanskrit language is moksha, or another common word in Sanskrit language is nirvana. Nirvana literally means cessation of material existence. So the holy name has the power to take one to the stage of nirvana. And then there's 5 more stages after the nirvana stage. In Buddhism, it's just nirvana. Krishna's name also protects sincere chanters from any further contamination from the worldly energy and those affected by it. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is describing Kama Rupena. Kama Rupena is the eternal enemy of the conditioned living entity, Nitya Vairina. And the nature of this eternal enemy is Dushparena, it's never satisfied, and Analena, burns like fire. Kama is never satisfied, and it burns like fire. But the nature of the chanting of the holy name is it can eliminate that. That's in effect. It takes careful chanting to realize that full effect. And forest fires are very dangerous. Anyone here experienced a forest fire? No? I did. I mean, not up close, but just a little sharing, story time. When I was growing up, somebody asked me, where did I grow up? I grew up in upstate New York. And I went to college in the west side of New York State, State University of New York at Buffalo. That's where I met devotees. So when I was young, my father, the whole family was kind of like an outdoorsy family. So one of the things they liked to do, you may have experienced this here in Massachusetts, when it's the fall season, in the mountains, it's really spectacular. The colors are just like awesome. So we got in a car in the fall and went to the Adirondack Mountains are in the northeastern part of the state, big mountain range. And so we went for a drive to go check out the colors of the fall season. And we're, the countryside, so just windy roads and trees everywhere and that as we were winding around, we saw some off in the distance. First, before we saw, we felt it was getting towards the afternoon, so that the heat of it was a fall day, was going down. But we felt this incredible heat wave. Like, what's that? And as we got to a clearing, there weren't so many trees, we could see several miles away, there was a fire on the side of a mountain. Several miles away, the heat was intense. And we just turned around and went the other way because we didn't want to go anywhere near. It was very fearful. I mean, intense. I mean, fire is one thing. A blazing forest fire is another thing. So we, turned around and drove quickly. I don't know what happened to that forest fire, but it's very dangerous. So the chanting of the holy name has the effect of extinguishing the forest fire of material existence by this downpour of mercy. There's a nice story in Katha Upanishad. Some of you may be a little familiar with the Upanishads. And in the Katha Upanishad, it's a discussion between Yamaraj, who you see with a scepter of a skull on his right knee, and a young Brahmin whose name was Nachiketa. So Nachiketa was in the service of his spiritual master, Vrajashravasa Rishi. He said, go gather wood. One day he said, rather than gathering wood, go to Yamaraj's abode and bring back some fire. Yes, sir. He went to Yamaraj's abode. He met with Yamaraj and said, can I have some fire? I'm sent by my spiritual master. And Yamaraj just laughed and said, you can't take fire from here. The fire is not from wood that's burning or anything like that. It's from the sins of the people who have come here. Their bodies are igniting in fire as an outcome of their sins. And there's something that can put out fires. That's what this image is showing. This downpours of rain will extinguish a blazing fire. So the chanting of the holy name is like that. It extinguishes the blazing forest fire of material existence. It brings one to the Nirvana stage and then beyond. And here's the beyond. In case you meet some Buddhists, here's where it begins. Beyond Nirvana is Shreya, Kairava, Chandrika, Vitaranam. Chandrika, we know, it's moonshine. And Kairava is a name for a white lotus. And Shreya, common name in India for girls, Shreya. Shreya means good fortune. Now, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar by any means, but I've learned some things just hearing Prabhupada speak. Prabhupada says many times, there's two things, Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas means short-term benefit. Shreyas means long-term benefit. So like children like to play. And that's called Preyas, short-term benefit. And at some point, it's time to go to school. So because you have to be Shreyas, you're one day going to grow up and you have to be prepared for that. So that's long-term benefit. And Shreya Uttama is ultimate benefit. So Shreya, this good fortune, the white lotus of good fortune, the moonshine of the white lotus of good fortune, Vitaranam, is expanded. So many of you know that lotuses bloom or blossom in the sunshine. What happened?
That happens sometimes. That happens sometimes.
There we go. Okay. Okay, so there's a nice white lotus. And at night, lotuses close. In the morning, when the sun rises, the lotus is open. And sometimes bees get stuck inside the lotus when the lotus closes at night. So at night, as in the night of the sage of Kali, the night of the darkness of the sage of Kali, the white lotus of good fortune is closed. But the white lotus of good fortune is open, vitaranam, expanded, by the sound of the holy name. The rays of the benediction moon, that's this Chandrika, the rays of the, so even though it's a full moon night, lotuses don't open. But the benediction moon of the holy name, it opens the lotus, the white lotus of good fortune. You know, it's poetic, but you know, that's the heart. The heart is sometimes compared to a lotus that can be open or not open. And when the holy name enters the region of the heart, the white lotus of good fortune is expanded. The petals of the white lotus are expanded. So that's 3 out of 7. We're moving along. This is a nice one. So after that white lotus of good fortune is expanded, Vidya, Vadhu, Jivanam. Now sometimes this word Vadhu is even specifically the young bride. So the young bride, who is the Jivanam or the life of the young bride? It's her new husband. And Vidya means education or knowledge. So the fruit, what the message is, unpacking it, when you chant the holy name, something happens. That is, the soul starts to become awakened. The white lotus of good fortune that's inherent in the soul becomes awakened. And knowledge that's inherent within the soul becomes awakened. The bhakti process, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, has these 2 effects. The innate knowledge within the heart becomes manifest, and detachment from illusion is the second byproduct of the bhakti, awakening of bhakti. Again, knowledge awakens, detachment from the temporary or the illusory existences of life. Say, when the soul is dormant, spiritual consciousness is dormant, the big thing is the objects of the senses and running after them for enjoyment. That's material existence. But when that material existence subsides or is extinguished, then detachment from worldly existence and awakening of knowledge happens. Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. So there she is, the young bride. And the young bride looks really happy and really decorated like anything. And, you know, a faithful young bride is thinking of her new husband. So the young bride of transcendental knowledge is thinking of Krishna because, according to Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of all knowledge is to know Krishna. So that's what this little phrase means. Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. In a very poetic way of expressing it. It's the life of the young bride of all transcendental knowledge. In the painting, there's the 2 we spoke about already, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. They're in Vrindavan, underneath a tree, and they're writing literature for us, giving vidya, or transcendental knowledge. The holy name is the life of all transcendental knowledge. The holy name is the life of all transcendental knowledge, or the life of the young bride of transcendental knowledge. So, review. A result of acquiring devotion is that devotees become illuminated with spiritual knowledge. Further chanting matures that knowledge into realization, which in time reveals devotee's original position in one of the 5 relationships with Krishna. 5 relationships with Krishna means 5 rasas. You familiar? Yes? No? According to Rupa Goswami's writings, we'll go back up. Historically, there was a well-known person, if my memory serves me right, it's Bharata Muni. He taught dance, and with dance, the purpose of dance, classic dance, is to stimulate in the audience different moods, with different mudras and different poses, and there's a whole science of how to stimulate those moods in the audience. And so he introduced, and well accepted, a science of rasa. That's promoted by music, does it also, but dance does it also, and he wrote the whole science of rasa. And that was around 800 AD or something like that. And then Lord Caitanya came, and Rupa Goswami expanded his teachings of rasa. And his expanded teachings of rasa, because there was a smaller number, something like 7, according to Bharata Muni, and so different dance and different gestures and mudras and so forth, was to awaken that in the audience. Rupa Goswami expanded it to 12. And his 12 are 5 primary and 7 secondary. And the primary rasas are, starting on this end, neutrality, like awe and veneration towards God as a relationship, as a mood. Servitorship, want to do something for the beloved, the object of love. Friendship, sakya, rasa. Parental affection, vatsalya, like Mother Jasoda, Nanda Maharaj, etc., and all the elders in Vrindavan, etc., Vasudeva and Devaki. And then conjugal rasa, the gopis, and so forth. Madhurya. So in Sanskrit, Shanta, neutrality. Dasya, servitorship. Sakya, friendship. Vatsalya, parental affection. Madhurya, conjugal affection. So what's being said here is, each one of us at the soul level has an eternally existing relationship with Krishna in one of those 5 rasas, and it's awakened. Vidya Vadhu Jivanam, by in the mature stage of chanting. So that's an effect. Back to the topic, the importance and the effects of chanting. Now that's the mature stage, where one's original relationship with Krishna and these 5 rasas becomes awakened. But spiritual knowledge becomes awakened. That's natural. That happens even in the earlier stages of chanting. And then progressively further and further and further, where it's just realized knowledge. Devotional service focus exclusively on increasing our attachment to Krishna is the goal of education, as well as the force that drives us forward. Similar to what's in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what's the purpose of the Vedas? The purpose of the Vedas, Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, is to know me. He says to Arjuna, Vedaischa Sayar Vair Aham Eva Vedyo. The purpose of the Vedas is to know me. So in the mature stage of chanting, or progressively, our attachment to Krishna, recognizing that attachment to Krishna is the goal of our education, as well as the force that drives us forward, that awakens from chanting. In the painting, over here, this is the chief priest in Puri during the time of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya. The chief priest, I mentioned his name already, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Bhattacharya is a title, and Sarvabhauma actually is a title also. The best of all Bhattas, best of all learned persons. So he, the super scholar, was wishing to do some service for this 24-year-old sannyasi, Lord Chaitanya, by teaching him Vedanta Sutra. So for 7 days, he instructed him in Vedanta Sutra, and you see Lord Chaitanya isn't responding at all. On the 8th morning, he said, I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying or not, because you don't say anything. And Lord Chaitanya replied, I understand Vedanta Sutra very well, but the more you speak, the more you cloud the meaning of Vedanta Sutra. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, what? Well, if you understand Vedanta Sutra, then you please explain it to me. And he explained it so simply, Sarvabhauma was astounded. I've never heard an explanation like this. Wonderful. And he said, you explain things so nicely. Can you explain the Atmarama verse? It's a celebrated verse from the Bhagavatam. Canto 1, Chapter 7, early in that chapter. And Lord Chaitanya said, well, you're such a scholar, maybe you can explain it. Oh, yes, I can explain it. And he explained it in 16 different ways. And when he was done, he said, what'd you think of that? We didn't use that language, but Lord Chaitanya said, that was very wonderful. And if you would like, I can explain. So there's a whole chapter in Chaitanya Charitamrita with Lord Chaitanya's teachings on the Atmarama verse. Atma Rama means one who's finding happiness within their Atma. Atmarama. And because they're Atmaramas, they're not attracted to anything outside. They're aware of what's outside, but they're not allured to be the enjoyer of worldly things because of that happiness within. So in that Atmarama verse, Lord Chaitanya teaches, with the exception of devotional service, all the methods of self-realization are like the nipples on the neck of a goat. What's the nipples on the neck of a goat? Here's a picture of a goat. Sometimes goats have these two fleshy things hanging under their neck. It doesn't deliver milk, but it's called nipples of the neck of a goat. So other processes don't deliver anything. Therefore, an intelligent person adopts only devotional service, giving up all other processes of self-realization. That's part of what Lord Chaitanya explained on the Atmarama verse. In a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Dev's teachings, Prabhupada explained this process of chanting together with reading Bhagavad Gita. Most recommended. And the musical kirtan we showed at the beginning slide, beads and mridanga. So musical and chanting and dancing, chanting using beads, and this reading and studying of the ancient Bhagavad Gita. Most recommended. So now we just have 3 left. And I think I'll go a little more quickly. Ananda, Ambudi, Vardhanam. Ambudi means ocean, and the ocean of not salt water, but the ocean of Ananda. Anandambudi, Vardhanam. As knowledge increases, so also transcendental bliss increases. Here's a regular ocean, Ambudhi. But this is Ananda Ambudhi, an ocean of Ananda, from the chanting of the holy name. And Radharani, we're going to be observing Radharani's appearance date tomorrow and at the temple tonight, public Radhastami festival. She's known as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Chinmaya is internal potency. Chinmaya Rasa, we already have heard what rasa means. It means taste. She is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. So we're getting the mercy of Radharani just from chanting. The external potency, that's this painting here, Maya Shakti, is the reflection of the internal potency. I'll say it again. The external potency is a reflection of the internal potency. Or you could say an expansion, a reflected expansion of the internal potency. That's Radharani or Yogamaya. Common on Janmashtami Day. I didn't discuss this yesterday evening, but it's a very common topic for Janmashtami. Krishna was the 8th son of Devaki. And before Krishna was born, when Devaki was pregnant with the 7th child, Krishna called his internal potency Yogamaya for some service. So she was very happy. Yes, service, tell me. And he said, transfer the 7th child to the womb of Rohini. The Rohini Nandana is Balaram. And I'll become the 8th child of Devaki. You become the daughter of Yashoda. That's your assignment. And when I'm born, you'll be born same time. And I'll have my father, Vasudeva, transfer me by the side of Yashoda, and he'll bring you back here to the prison house. Kamsa will come to try to kill you. Don't worry, you're my internal potency. He can't kill you. And after he fails to kill you, then here's some other service. You can be known throughout the land by various names of Durga. Directly in the Bhagavatam, Krishna instructing Yogamaya. So this Maya Shakti is the external appearance of the Lord's internal potency, a reflection of his internal potency. So she bewilders. She has the power of illusion to bewilder living entities. But Radharani is the Ananda portion of Krishna's internal potency. And together, the transcendental couple are attracting the hearts and the minds and engaging us also in service. This is a deity of Yogamaya. Those of you that have been to Vrindavan, one of the places, if you haven't been, one of the places you're likely to visit is one of the rasa dance places, Vangshivat. When Krishna called the gopis with his Vangshi, there's a tree, Vangshivat tree. And in that celebrated place where the rasa dance was performed, there's this deity of Yogamaya. There's a close-up of Yogamaya. So she's Radharani, the Ananda portion of Krishna's internal potency. Similar message. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That person is a true preceptor, a true father, a true mother, a true friend, and also only if they teach one to always remember the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Okay, here's this. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. As much as the heart is relieved from unwanted habits, so that's covering Chaita Darpana Marjanam. To that degree, we become devoted to Krishna. As much as devotion is firmly fixed in our hearts, to that degree we acquire realized knowledge, vidyavadho jivanam. And as much as the heart is illuminated by both devotion and knowledge, to that degree we taste spiritual happiness. In this way, the ocean of bliss swells. Two more. This is simple. Pratipadam, at every step. Purna amrita. Purna means complete. Amrita, nectar. Asvadana was given a taste of the full nectar at every step. That is, reinstating the soul in his position in relation to Krishna. Again, this is Gopakumar returning to the spiritual world. And that's Purna Amrita. The 6 Goswamis, we mentioned them already. Here's a painting of the 6 Goswamis. In the center, there's Rupa and Sanatan. And then there's 4 others. One of them is Jiva, already mentioned Jiva. And there's a Ashtaka, 8 prayers written about them, and one of them says like this: Prema Amrita Ambodhi Ambo Nidhi. Ambo Nidhi. It's an ocean of Amrita. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. This is an important teaching, even for covered souls. It's just kind of like a diamond or gold or something that's a diamond that's covered, muddy. Inside the mud, there's the diamond. Just remove the mud and there's the diamond. Or gold may have alloys. You make it very hot and melt it, and the alloys are separated from the gold. So by that same process or similar process, the soul has pure love already within. And it's brought out or awakened or purified by hearing and chanting. Pure love for Krishna is already there. Pratipadam, at every step. If we perform Nam Sankirtan with love, we will see Krishna, either internally or externally, at every step. There it is again. It enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. This is a celebrated photograph of Prabhupada in Germany. A morning walk with the devotees in Germany, and the picture, of course, is bigger, but Prabhupada's happiness is contagious. When devotees finally achieve the perfection of chanting, they taste the full nectar of loving devotion to Krishna, a nectar that makes the bliss of liberation seem insignificant. And the last one, Sarva Atma Snapanam. Snapanam is bathing. And Atma Snapanam is bathing the soul. It's for everyone. So this is kind of a summation. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. Chanting frees conditioned souls of the illusion of identifying themselves with their body and mind, and establishes them in the cleansed and cooling reality that they are eternal spiritual entities. So that's the importance of and the benefits of chanting. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Let there be victory. Vijayate. So that's the conclusion. Importance and effect of chanting. A lot of scriptural references, but that's how in spiritual circle Prabhupada taught when you speak something in spiritual circles, whatever you say should be supported from scripture. So this is a scriptural explanation or a foundational explanation of the importance and the effect of chanting. So those of you that are not yet regularly chanting, hopefully you can find some inspiration to make chanting a regular practice. Last time I was in Boston, I spent how many days? 10 days? At the end of the 10 days, I asked Vishaka, are you regularly chanting? She giggled. And her mom said, not regularly. So I asked her, do you think you can make a commitment to chant regularly? She giggled. And so it came to, 1 or 2. So when was that visit? July. And she's been maintaining. She's outside. Vishaka, please come. She was for a while, but hasn't been steady.
Settling down.
But she remembered that.
Huh?
She remembered the commitment that given.
Princess Vishaka, I have a question for you. Remember when I was here last time and I asked you if you would want to make a commitment to chant daily something? Yeah? And you said 1 or 2, and I said 1 or 2 means 1. And then later I heard that you said 2. Remember that? And I just asked, has Vishaka been keeping up with her chanting? And I was told, well, until school started. How you doing with your chanting? Regular or not so regular? Not so regular. Okay. But do you see why I'm bringing this up? The importance and effect of chanting. It's important. That's why I'm not putting you on a hot seat to make you uncomfortable or something like that. It's to remind you that it's important. So once you get settled in the routine of back to school and all that, try to reconnect with that effort to chant on a daily basis. Please? Okay. Okay. And those of you that, are a little older, you want to chant on a regular basis, that's good. I won't go through the same exercise. I can do this with Vishaka because we have this nice relationship. She's okay. Consider its importance. I was just before coming to Boston, I was in Atlanta for a few days with college programs, and then during the Labor Day weekend, I was in Houston. We had a Japa retreat. It was virtual because they have a COVID problem in Texas. So it was all virtual. Something like 70, 75 people participated virtually. They registered and participated. So at the end, there was we had some sharing, and there was a lady who, during the sharing, she had this nice image on the Zoom screen of a pair of hands with their hands folded like this. So I said, whoever that is, I like your image. Could you speak and share something? So it was a new person, She said, I do other mantras and I follow other practices, but I found this, very interesting. I'd like to learn about chanting Mahamantra. And so I participated, and it was a really nice experience. And I chanted 32 rounds during the 32 round day, we were calling it. She got up really early. Because we spoke about that. She was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she said, I've been hearing some discussion about some japa call that you have here, so I'd like to join it. So they sent her the information the next morning and the next morning and the next morning. At 3 o'clock in the morning, she's on that call. And that, because that's what some people do in Houston. The person who was the temple president for like 40 years, he's now retired. His children are grown up and stuff. So he's now spending time just focusing on chanting a lot, and reading and other things. So he has this japa call from 3 o'clock till 7 o'clock in the morning with a class in between. But they're really serious about chanting. So that lady was there right at time, 3 o'clock. I mean, people that are busy have to go to work and stuff. But feedback is she really liked her experience, and she really likes the chanting. Now here locally, there's a much shorter and time-friendly japa call. Maybe that's for those of you that aren't regularly chanting. It's a way you can join, get in the habit of chanting with others. It's just a consideration. Okay, importance and effect of chanting. See if there's any discussion. Radha. Do we have a portable microphone or no? No. Okay, so you can speak up. She's laughing because she started with I'm trying to get her to not start with
So you're talking about regulation and chanting?
With regulation?
Yeah, regulation and chanting. And usually what happens is
Regulation in chanting.
Okay. Usually what happens?
it's that it's basically regulation in anything. This is especially spiritual activities. What happens is that I start off very bright. I do it for 1 month, very regulated.
And then
Then it starts
fading.
fading. And so how do you stop that? Because that happened with chanting, arti, and many other devotional things. It's hard to start it back again.
Well, it has everything to do with the modes of nature. And the modes of goodness is one of the symptoms of the mode of goodness is regulation. And when you drift from the mode of goodness, regulation helps you become established in goodness, and it's a symptom of one who's in goodness. So the opposing force is those other sometimes more favorite modes. And they draw away from regulation. They draw away from determination. And determination breaks through the other side of those tendencies, the other modes of nature tendencies. But that's the force. And so how to develop more mode of goodness and less the other modes? Ultimately, bhakti is the method. You know this from Canto 1, because you studied Canto 1. Canto 1, Chapter 2. Tamo rajas kama lobha dayasya cheta atiranadvidam stitvam sattve prasidati. One becomes established in goodness through regular hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you're going to move on to Canto 2 along with the other students. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and you're doing those things that are mode of goodness. One of your favorite activities is regulating your eating. Yeah. So, become regular in mode of goodness activities, in a general manner, speak pleasingly. That's a mode of goodness, austerity of speech. So you cultivate the mode of goodness, generally speaking, and then regulation becomes very natural. It's not the fading tendency. It may take some time. You're young, and, young people like to do different things, but there'll be strength in the core of your personality and your character and everything if there's the quality of goodness. And it'll help you not only be a better person, but it'll help you achieve the things you want to achieve. Mode of goodness is more powerful than the others. So you cultivate it, and from time to time, when you see it sagging, you renew your commitment. And just like is happening right now, just by you asking the question you're asking, it'll be a propellant for a while. Yeah, the sadhu sangha principle.
I think sometimes it happens that I feel like, okay, it doesn't matter if I did 3 rounds, right? If I did 4 rounds, the same thing as I did 2 rounds, right? So, and then my intelligence says, no, but do 4 rounds because Lord told me to.
Yeah.
And then my mind is like, nah. I think
Well, so learn to not listen to that unpleasant sound vibration called the mind. You neglect the mind. You go like this. Excuse me, but you've been in charge too long, and you haven't been leading me upwards. You've been leading me all over the place. So you just sit down, and my intelligence is going to be in charge. And you practice like that, and it's mana shiksha. You've heard that phrase, right? Shiksha means instruction. Mana shiksha. It's a book written by Raghunath Das. My dear mind. And it's a nice short book. Instructions to the mind. So when you listen to the mind, you're going to be all over the place, all over the universe, birth after birth. Listen to the mind. It'll take you anywhere, everywhere. So instead, give instructions to the mind. My dear mind, with a smile. I'm gonna stay by intelligence. That's yeah, but Maharaj said so. So that's intelligence. Intelligence is to receive intelligence. Intelligent person receives intelligence from a good source. That's an intelligent person. Yeah, there's always other things. And the distracted mind very quickly goes to those other things. No effort at all. Very quickly. Zoom. Wow. And not so quickly to the regulated things, just because of habit and modes of nature and all those material conditioning. So there's a path to not get pulled around by a rope, pulled by the mind here and there. There's a way. Okay. Anything else? Yeah. Yes. Hare Krishna.
I have a question, but it's not related to this topic.
That's okay.
So I was listening to this seminar from Nachiketa Mataji the other day, and I just had this thought. She was talking about Radharani, and it was so beautiful. It made me choke up. Then I was just wondering, so is Radharani different than Lakshmi Devi? Because in one of her seminars, she was talking about when Guru Swami was trying to look for Radharani for his Govinda Dev, and Radharani comes in dream of someone saying that I am here in Orissa, but everyone's thinking I'm Lakshmi, but I'm actually Radharani. So I'm just wondering, are they different?
Two things. Different and non-different.
Mm-hmm.
the original is Radha, and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, is Radha's expansion. She is an aspect of or an expansion of Radha. But she, Lakshmi, or any of Radha's expansions are not the fullness of Radha, they're aspects of Radha. Lakshmi manifests the aspect of opulence, and Radha manifests the aspect of opulence and sweetness. So they're the same because the expansion is the same as the place from which it was expanded, but different. And the aspect of Lakshmi is the opulence aspect. And she, Lakshmi, consorts with Narayana. But Lakshmi doesn't consort with Krishna because she doesn't have that same quality or qualification, adhikar, to enter into the intimacy of Krishna's sweet dealings. So the same and different, or but different. Okay?
What about Rukmini? Rukmini is considered Lakshmi.
Yeah, she is. She is Lakshmi.
Rukmini with Krishna married.
Yeah. But she's not the same as Radha. There's more intimacy with Rukmini, between Rukmini and Krishna in Dwarka, than Lakshmi with Narayana in Vaikuntha. So this is an esoteric topic, but the esoteric topic goes like this. Narayana and Krishna are the same, and not the same. Not the same in the sense that with, Narayana doesn't have a mother and father. Narayana doesn't have a brother. Narayana doesn't expand himself into multiple Narayans and have rasa dance with multiple Lakshmis. He is the opulent feature, the Aishvarya feature of the Supreme Lord in full. Bhagavan in full. All opulences in full. And then in the Vaikuntha realm, the topmost of all the Vaikuntha planets is Ayodhya. It's also in the Vaikuntha realm, but there's some increase of sweetness. There's a mother and father, there's brothers, there's etc. And there's intimacy in Ayodhya that doesn't exist in the rest of Vaikuntha. And then there's another abode beyond Vaikuntha called Goloka. And within that Goloka, in increasing degrees of intimacy, there's Dwarka, then Mathura, then Vrindavan. And the residents of Vrindavan, they don't even give a hoot about is Krishna God or not. I mean, they're so overwhelmed with loving affection. When he shows his divinity, they process it some other way. Because of the intensity of the sweetness of their love. And that's the speciality of Krishna in Vrindavan. Now let's go to Rukmini. Rukmini is one of Krishna's queens. She's the first of Krishna's queens, in fact. And she is the goddess of fortune. Now there's an intimacy in that, her brother, her elder brother, wanted her to marry Shishupal. And she had to appeal to Krishna in a very clever way to get Krishna to marry her instead. And Krishna married her. And it was, very exciting marriage. But, there's no event like that in Lakshmi and Narayan. There's an intimacy in their dealings that she's the goddess of fortune plus with a degree of intimacy, but not the same intimacy as exists in Vrindavan. There's more to be said, but that's a principle. So she's the goddess of fortune plus. And then Radharani is the goddess of fortune plus plus plus. Or the goddess of fortune is her expansion plus the fullness of intimacy of love. And it's not the material kind of intimacy of love, it's the spiritual fullness of intimacy of love. In fact, all the gopis are expansions of her. In fact, all the goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, are expansions of her. And Rukmini is an expansion of her. But in the Leela, the loving sentiment is not the same. For Rukmini towards Krishna in Dwarka, and the gopis towards Krishna in Vrindavan. It doesn't mean there's something limited or imperfect or something like that. There's nothing negative about Rukmini. She's the goddess of fortune, plus. So there's this hierarchy, you can say, of resting upon rasa, the intimacy of love. And it's very, very, very special. Of all the rasas, the intimacy of love with Krishna. Just like when Krishna was in Dwarka, he had a chariot driver. His chariot driver's name was Daruka. And, the chariot driver of Krishna in Dwarka was really close to Krishna. But as the servant of Krishna, it's not the same as those who were in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan fanning him. The intimacy of that love is not the same as his chariot driver in Dwarka. There's intimacy in Vrindavan that's very, very, very attractive. Very special. You have something? No. Anyone else? Okay. We have something online?
2 questions online.
Okay.
One from Udayananda. It's Subhadra, Purnamasi and Yogamaya. Are they all the same?
Yes. Like Lakshmi and Radha are the same, but there's difference.
And which potency of Krishna they belong to?
The Yogamaya potency. And there's different degrees of the fullness of their being manifest. As, like Rukmini and Radha in Vrindavan.
Next question is from Archana Mataji, Amara Mataji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. What is the difference between one's remembering the deity and bringing them to the mind while chanting, and deity darshan coming to one while chanting?
What's the difference is the question?
Yeah, what is the difference between one's remembering?
Well, the difference is just what you just said. If Krishna appears in the mind, the doorway could be one of multiple sources. But if Krishna comes into the mind, it's Krishna coming into the mind. And what's the difference? It's which doorway he came. Radha.
One more question. So,
She's got a so instead of an So, Go ahead.
the question.
For the others in the room, I'm trying to train her that because she's the kind of personality that she is, she's going to be one day a spokesperson of one kind or another to the world and amongst the devotee community, and it will detract from that role, that service, by starting sentences with It's just not the same. So train her young. So now she's got so instead of I'll remind you. Pleasantly, I'll remind you. Okay.
The question that my dad read about how the mother was the same as Yogamaya, so to speak. So Dashrata also had a daughter named Shanta.
Yes.
So basically, she was Lord Ram's sister. So is there any connection between Shanta and Yogamaya, so to speak?
I've not heard anything from our acharyas on that topic. Logic would say probably, but we don't say probably. The real answer is I don't know, because our acharyas haven't commented like that. It would make sense logically. It would make sense, but there's nothing from our acharyas to confirm that. It could be something else, so we don't say. We don't, other than our acharyas have not commented on that, to my knowledge. But here's something I can do. I have a few people that are really, as you know, really knowledgeable in Ramayana, and I'll ask them. And if there's any reply back, to the positive, I'll let you know. I'll be surprised if there is. It'll probably be, there's nothing in our Acharya's writings to indicate. Nice question. Okay, well, I think that's it. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki Jai.
Till the next Prabhupada Maharaj.